Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. If you're new to this channel, hit subscribe right now. I'm going to give you the primary reasons why no other Republican, Pence included, especially Pence, but no Republican can come close. There's not a Republican who can come close to surpassing Trump within the GOP. And I'm going to explain now, definitely within the next 10 minutes, just deal with my long-winded, endless banter. Because within the next 10 minutes, you will know exactly why. Luke and Eric, thank you. The two best moderators in all of YouTube. To my super chat, this is a viewer-funded channel. Really, I mean, you helped me immensely. So to my super chat, thank you. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like the wealthiest. We have only the wealthiest socialists in this country. It's amazing. Who, by the way, are experiencing a discrimination case that nobody's talking about. Gee, I wonder why. Jean-Louis! I was on time for once. Also. Jean-Louis, thank you. Starting it off. Scott, hello. Jean-Louis. J-Spot51. Luz Pool, hello. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Jean-Louis Blackburn, hello. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the top reasons that nobody in the Republican Party will ever replace President Trump or one of the reasons it is impossible. If you are new to this channel, hit subscribe right now. One of the reasons it's impossible, and share this segment everywhere. Forbes, IMF tells Biden to dump Trump's tariffs. Forbes, Trump might lose another title to Biden, tariff man. Washington Post, Trump's reckless tariffs remain intact. Biden's failure to reverse them has consequences. Why do you think Biden has failed to reverse them? CNN tariffs. Why Biden has left the taxes or tariffs associated with the largest country in the world with the Great Wall intact. The Hill, Biden faces dilemma on Trump. Steel tariffs. It's a dilemma. He really doesn't want to keep them, CNBC, Biden says he won't immediately remove Trump's tariffs. Bloomberg, Republican senators urge Biden to end Trump-initiated trade tariffs. That's another reason you have Republicans siding with Democrats on yet another issue. Why do you think Biden is not going to reverse Trump's tariffs? Because they make sense. They are a short-term economic tactic that steel CEOs wanted. Pointing out the short-term economic dilemmas or obstacles from tariffs is not a rebuttal. It is not a rebuttal. That does not refute the reason that Biden is keeping Trump's tariffs. Because in less than 30 years, we will be third in the world behind the most populous country. India will be second. The United States will be third. India will be the second largest economy in the world. And the number one economy will be the most populous country in the world. Ring and Constitutional, keep up the good work. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Ring and Constitutional. Thank you so very, very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Ring and Constitutional, thank you. Trump's tariffs made sense. Do you know what happens in the European Union? Businesses, countries, or trade unions demand tariffs. Do you want to know what happens here? The AFL-CIO demands tariffs. Except when, Trump pretty much gave the top unions exactly what they wanted. And of course, he's the monster. Biden should terminate Trump's tariffs, not continue them. OC Register. You think Biden's continuing them because he loves Trump? He's continuing them because the United States at this point, because of our reaction to what potentially could be a gift, because of our reaction from the top people, the Enron executives running our country, and I say that by the smartest people in the room. There's a documentary, Enron, the smartest people in the room. The smartest people in the room have run the U.S. economy into the ground because of science and safety, and still it hasn't worked out. So maybe the experts are wrong. As in every generation, you will find experts that are wrong. You will find political and economic. You will find political or foreign policy or other types of consensus that lead to catastrophe. Absolute, unmitigated disaster. Why do you think he's keeping Trump's tariffs? Do you think that he wants to? Do you think he cares? Do you think that Biden secretly voted for Trump? He's not ending Trump's tariffs because that's an example of something that Trump did that Republicans didn't have the will to do and Democrats certainly didn't want to do. But now we have no choice, because whereas before it was an option, now it's an imperative. Business cannot be, you can't simply revert back to business as usual when you're still thinking of tanking the entire economy yet again. And I don't know, I'll tell you something. I'm not going to actually, I try my best to walk on eggshells, and you know what I mean if you're watching this channel. I don't know how this country is going to survive economically if we have people who continue to do the same things over and over again in terms of ensuring that the GDP decreases every quarter. I don't understand. I don't know how so all of the left-leaning socialists and morally superior, because people become communists and socialists because they have this morality, like this obsession with being moral, not an actual desire to be moral. They have a vapid obsession to be moral. There has never been a successful communist country. It's never happened. There's no such thing as real communism, or it hasn't worked yet because there's no such thing as real time travel. Nobody's ever time traveled because it doesn't exist. I mean, theoretically, I guess it could exist. Some things are fantasies, utopias, things that just don't exist. So you're looking at the left blindly accepting the shutting down of the American economy, probably yet again because they're just blindly and mindlessly obedient without ever, like the edgiest socialists who vote blue no matter who are no different from Schumer. Rose Twitter is Chuck Schumer. They're the same person. They're the same people generally. If you vote Green Party, no, you're different. If you sit it out and decide not to vote Democrat, you're different. I have 100% respect for you. But don't tell me you're this edgy socialist if you vote blue no matter who, because you are no different from Nancy Pelosi. You will always tailor your arguments to what benefits a political party, not what benefits the world or human beings. And if you say, well, Democrats always benefit human beings when compared to Republicans, then you are just simply a mindless, obedient tool. You cannot vote Republican always. You cannot vote Democrat always. You have to look. you have to look and see who the best person is. And sometimes there's a Trump that comes out. Chad Davis! Oklahoma loves AJ. I love Oklahoma, Chad. I hope all is well. Trump DeSantis 2024. Press Secretary Goodman 2024. Chad Davis, I hope all is well, Chad. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to see you here. Chad, thank you so much, Chad. Farmer Funk, I've been super proud of you and Jimmy Dore lately. We truly need leaders like you to stand up against the groupthink zombies that control the MSM. Thank you so very much, Farmer Funk. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate that so much. Thank you. Paul, hello. I do appreciate that greatly. Thank you, Farmer. Farmer Funk, Chad Davis, thank you so very much for the kind words. So I can go on, Farmer Funk and Chad and everybody here, we can go on forever. We can go on forever and talk about tariffs alone. They're short-term economic tactics to ensure that the trade imbalance, the trade deficit, is eventually lessened or decreased. You can't have a trade deficit that continues to increase while your economy continues to shrink. Who do you think is getting the better end of that economically? Then you have the reason I bring up the wealthy socialists is that you have socialists and people on Twitter and people like Bernie Sanders, and I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I used to be the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. His rhetoric, his extreme rhetoric, really, was able to lure me into the belief that he truly meant what he was saying. Especially in terms of foreign policy, bringing Americans home, which is what Trump did. It was President Trump who negotiated the deal to bring Americans home. But if you're talking about Farmer Funk and Chad and everybody here, Eric and Luke, if you're talking about, if your entire argument is wealth inequality is unfair, working class people need to have better opportunities, the wealthiest Americans, control a certain percentage of the economy always. Well, what do you think? What do you think perhaps could make things more equitable? Do you think maybe a constantly shrinking economy would help? You think maybe the type of economy that we have now is good for working people? The good socialists out there? The good communists out there? Look at the economy. Is it a choice? Or the way they look at it is, well, that's just what's happening. There's nothing we could do. It's just, it's unfortunate that this must happen this way. It's like, no, Trump would have focused on economic growth. You need the ability to pay for your medication, especially since Democrats don't want Medicare for all, which means you need to have opportunities, employment opportunities. You cannot shut down society to protect against microscopic organisms. You cannot do that because guess what? In Los Angeles and New York, you know what they did? The mayor of Los Angeles was saying he was going to turn off the electricity of houses that had these big house parties. Do you think people didn't live their lives? Well, we have to end the society as we know it. Because it's safety, safety. Meanwhile, people can't afford their rent. So the Democrats and the experts cause a situation where people can't afford their rents. And then the socialists, man, they say rent, moratorium on evictions. You caused this. You didn't save anyone's life. You caused this problem with your manic and hysterical and paranoid reaction. This economy was a choice. Experts that are expert in one profession shouldn't get into grandiose economic decisions for everyone else. That's another issue that Trump pushed back on. I mean, we could talk about tariffs and the economy for 2-3 hours. We can talk about gross domestic product and wage increases all throughout President Trump's administration. Do you want to know what I heard from people who didn't like Trump? What about real GDP? Well, how's real GDP now? Is it good? How's the inflation now? Real GDP takes into account inflation, and inflation isn't the same in every state. But how's real GDP now? Sudden economist. How's real GDP now? Is that good? Is it good now? No, it's not. Pence wants to overtake Trump. Look at the article in the description section. He's going after Biden. He's trying to make a move. And he is trying... Mr. President, you look at me right now. You don't crumple that paper and throw it at me. Mr. President, I'm talking to you. Mr. President. I'm going to put my finger a couple of inches from your chest, and I'm going to tell... That's what the book said recently. Okay? You cannot... No, you look at me, Mr. President. You look at me. By the power of Ronald Reagan's Bible that I'm holding, and by the power of Grayskull, you absolutely will not bully me ever again, and you apologize for throwing that newspaper at me. Please look at me when I'm talking to you. What are you doing? No, don't leave the room now. No, I'm going to follow you. This is Mike Pence. No, Mr. President. I am so angry I cannot even tell you. And that's basically what is said to have taken place. But you look at what's taking place. I mean, the article's below. Pence thinks that Pence is going to run for president in 2024. He was in Iowa recently trying to distance himself from both Biden and Trump. And it's not going to work. The reason it's not going to work is that there isn't a Republican that he will come close to President Trump. Tariffs is an example. Biden is keeping tariffs. So that's just, we haven't even gotten to foreign policy, which is exactly why I like Trump. Because he opposes the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project, Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, military hawks, foreign policy hawks, are voting alongside Bernie Sanders and the edgy socialists. Think about that for a second. The Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld foreign policy organizations, Lincoln Project, Bill Kristol, other people, all the foreign policy experts that ushered in 20 years of never-ending military interventions and toppling authoritarians and then creating a destabilized country, whether it was Libya or numerous countries under Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. President Obama's biggest mistake was just Libya. It's his biggest mistake, quote unquote. DR, thank you. Those people are voting alongside the edgy lefties. Think about that for a second. Now, we've talked about tariffs. We've talked about how Biden and Republicans, or how Democrats and Republicans opposed Trump's tariffs, and how trade unions wanted them, especially the CEOs of steel companies, and that simply bringing up The rebuttal that it's a short-term economic, there's short-term economic distress from it doesn't take into account the fact that it's a tactic, it's a short-term tactic that is meant to leverage a country that's going to surpass us economically. I mean, now, when our economy was good, the tariffs, were working. And they were forcing the largest country in the world to negotiate. Now it's a different ballgame, but we still need them. Fear drives our world, our society now. Fear and consensus. The fear that's derived from the consensus of experts who are always wrong. Okay? My evaluation on politics is generally right. If I go out on a limb, for fun about inconsequential things like Clinton being nominee instead of Biden because Hillary Clinton could actually communicate, that's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal when people say, it didn't happen. Yeah, it didn't happen. It was very normal. Everything was very normal. But I did say Clinton would lose to Trump. Nobody on the left was saying that. And I wrote about that in The Hill, the Huffington Post Salon. Nobody on the left, and they spent 4 years blaming Russia, and I said that was complete nonsense. And I said Trump never worked with Russia from day one. So compare my analysis to the wonderful $20 million venture capital people. I've been much more on point than they have. But they get $20 million in venture capital specifically to repeat CNN and MSNBC talking points. That's how you get $20 million in venture capital funding. You don't get $20 million in venture capital funding by wanting American soldiers to come home. That's what drives me. They vote the $20 million venture capitalist funded progressives are voting alongside the Lincoln Project. Think about that for a second. Who's getting played? Because it's not the Lincoln Project. They have gone to the Democratic Party because that's a home for them now. Because Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld relied on Kerry and Clinton and Biden, Kerry, and Clinton, and other top Democrats voted alongside Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. So it's not that big of a switch. When the Lincoln Project voted for votes Democrat, that's not a huge leap. That's not like they make it out to be like, these are sensible Republicans, but Trump is a really bad person because of his words. I agree President Trump shouldn't have said things that he said. I agree with that. But the good he's done, whether it's prison reform legislation or negotiating a deal to bring Americans home or record low unemployment, and you could say, well, that wasn't his policies. Yeah, the tax cuts worked. The good that he's done outweighed any negatives from his rhetoric, which I do agree he could have communicated better. But you look at Republicans and Democrats, they're the two sides of the same coin. There are differences, but there aren't enough differences to prevent the Lincoln Project from voting alongside Rose Twitter. Think about that for a second. Think about how important that point is. Think about how when you have Bush Republicans who voted on a marriage amendment, okay? Karl Rove in 2004 wanted a marriage amendment, okay? You think maybe you think that mentality would cancel out people today? Well, it didn't cancel out the Lincoln Project. Even with their current debacle pretty much canceled them out. But you have the left working with the Bush-era Republicans. And then, like, when I was on the left, I debated somebody on my channel, a very influential left-leaning voice. And he said, well, this person was trying to unite with conservatives and bad people. I said, it's okay to... Wait a second, you're okay with the Lincoln Project voting alongside the Democratic Party, but you can't find common ground with certain conservatives on bringing home Americans or ending military involvement? And it was conservatives. It wasn't horrible monsters, people that are, extremely prejudiced, the 1930s and 1940s Germans. It wasn't that. But everyone is painted, like, they don't paint the Lincoln Project to an extreme, but they paint everybody else they don't like to the extreme. Orange Grove 55. Did you see Disney is moving Imagineering jobs to Florida, Hollywood, until their policies help their bottom line? Exactly. Orange Grove 55. It's really interesting. Orange Grove 55. You look also. Orange Grove 55. Thank you. I hope all is well. Orange Grove 55. It's also interesting. The number of people moving. Like, I find it really interesting. Orange Grove 55 and everybody here. Luke, I know you're in Texas. And Eric, you're in Florida, and everybody here, I don't understand. You have liberal Democrats leaving blue states because they can't live because of the taxes, because of a whole bunch of things, the homelessness, because of the crime. Then they bring their politics to Texas. You're leaving specifically because your politics don't work. You're leaving blue states specifically because you want a better life. Because people of your political party have run the state into the ground. So you're going to where it's it's cheaper, it's better, it's safer, it's more beautiful, and the cost of living is down, but the quality of life is up. And still, you vote Democrat. Still, I don't get that at all. I don't get liberal Democrats in Texas. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. We have, if you want the most liberal places in the world, there's New York and there's New York and California. Hey, there's Portland. There's Oregon, Washington. And so you look at like the people who, when people don't understand why voters vote Trump, it's a bit, okay, President Trump lost his way a little bit. The last year of his presidency, he lost his way. And yes, he was dealing with a lot of things. You could say, here's the issue. There was no reason, the last year and a half of his presidency to even utilize Twitter. I keep saying this. He lost his ability to communicate with people who were on the fence. There were people who were on the fence that he could have reached. Even if you say, well, it wouldn't have mattered anyway because look what took place. I'm talking like it would have been a different ball game. Giacomo, hello, thank you. If you look at people on the fence regarding Trump, We had a good economy. Our foreign policy was good. I mean, they made like, oh my God, Putin and the Helsinki conference. Look what Trump did. Trump didn't believe that he interfered in the election because there's no evidence of that. There's zero evidence that Putin interfered where even one vote was altered. Give me a number of votes that were altered because of Russian Facebook ads or Kremlin-purchased Facebook ads. Then they say that Trump lies all the time. It's like, well, there's a reason that Democrats are absolutely manic when it comes to information. You can't believe Trump and Facebook. Facebook is spreading disinformation and people are listening to it. Because they don't trust you, maybe. Maybe it's disinformation and people shouldn't listen to it, but I always grew up. I grew up most of my life being able to decipher what's true and what's false. After 2016, that apparently, and after 2016 and 2020, enough people in this country said, nah, I'm voting for Trump. I'm not voting for the perpetual liars in the Democratic Party. And then the media was, no, Trump lies more. Nobody lies more than Trump. Let's say that's true. Let's assume for a second that nobody lies more than Trump. He's still got 74 million Americans. That's with 92% negative media coverage. Do you think maybe you're despised even more? And you're despised because of years of disdain. Not this fabricated hysteria regarding Trump. He paid for tuition. He paid for tuition payments. Well, didn't he work with the Kremlin a year ago? He did something. He did something. What did he do? And then I hear this nonsense. Oh, it's so hilarious. You're not going to hold him accountable? You're not going to hold Trump accountable? Accountable for what? I want to know. For what happened in Jan? A couple months back? Jordan, hello. Look what he did a couple months back. Jordan Weinberg. Jordan, thank you. Jordan Weinberg, thank you so very much. I hope all is well. Jordan, thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. Jordan Weinberg, thank you. Thank you. Jordan, thank you. David, hello. When people say, you're not going to hold Trump accountable, for what? Well, he compelled people to commit crimes. Good. The mayor of D.C. and the attorney general of D.C. should have leveled charges at him. Why didn't they? Well, some things you can't prove in court. Yeah, so then you can't say them then. They're not categorical. You could definitely prove that Madam Secretary shouldn't have used private service with top secret intel in court. Okay? There was intent there. You can prove that. What you can't prove in court that Trump told people to commit crimes. You can't prove that. That's your opinion. And I agree, there shouldn't have been protests that day because there was no point to it. Whoever told President Trump, he could have communicated his vantage point in a million different ways. God bless him. There should not have been protests in January. That should never have happened. That day should never have happened, and that woman should be alive, and those 4 people should be alive. That woman should be alive today, and that was a tragedy in and of itself, and the whole thing was a tragedy. But there shouldn't. What good did it do? This is what I don't like. This is something I don't understand. You don't have media. You don't have. Doc Flex. Hello. Doc Flex. Hello. Doc, hello. Thank you so very much. Jordan, thank you. It's not his fault. He didn't tell people to do anything, but you know that Democrats, you know that there are so... Look, 4 years ago, CNN reported 2 Democratic operatives were fomenting altercations at Trump rallies. I'll leave it at that. You don't have to make any leaps of logic right now. I'll just leave it at that. Why? I think President Trump made himself vulnerable from day one in things that his personality and his character traits got him there, and then some of these character traits turned into flaws that left him open. To, Pence and others. If you look, Doc Flex, hello. Jordan, hello. If you look, Republicans truly believe that they can surpass President Trump. Some Republicans. You look at Kinzinger and Cheney, they voted alongside Trump 90% of the time. They voted alongside Trump 90% of the time in Congress. So it's like they're not going to be able to surpass President Trump. They're not going to be able to surpass President Trump. They're not going to be able to surpass Trump because Democrats and Republicans, like I talked about with tariffs, Electric Dog, hello, like I talked about with tariffs, Democrats and Republicans are going to agree on most things aside from government spending. Now, that might be enough for people to say, vote blue no matter who. I mean, you're not going to give to communities that are suffering right now. Well, who's causing all of the economic downturns? Have you ever asked yourself, gee, are the policies of my political party causing an economic downturn? Jean-Louis Blackburn. Someday I'd like to hear a perspective by Karl Marx, leftist reaction, plus historical ramifications. I haven't looked into that from Karl Marx. I probably should look into that. It's probably a take on that issue that I would disagree with. I'm looking at it right now. So I already disagree with it. See, what happens is when you have somebody who doesn't believe in God talking about what people who do believe in God should do, it's always sometimes a disconnect. But that's interesting. Jean-Louis Blackburn, thank you so very, very much. I would have to look into it a lot more. Jean-Louis Blackburn, thank you. In Marxist analysis, the secular state is not opposed to religion, but actually presupposes it. So see, this is what happens. If you, Jean-Louis Blackburn, thank you so very much, and I appreciate the philosophical discussions. Thank you so very much, Jean-Louis. The religion of Democrats, or the religion of morally superior liberals, the religion of most atheists today is CNN and MSNBC and what their friends at dinner parties think. Do you understand? I don't go to dinner parties. I'll have a barbecue. I don't go to dinner parties. Dinner parties are fine, but dinner parties in Los Angeles and New York, you're holding a drink. Did you see what Trump said? This man is too much. I'll take some hors d'oeuvres, yes. The sushi, yes. I love sushi. Oh, yes, I'll take the quinoa infused with berries and oxygen. Trumpers. I know, I can't believe I went to school with him. H.A. Badman. Oh. Look what he's become. I mean, this world, our democracy cannot last with Trump imposing these tariffs that'll help our country. And bringing home Americans and having record low unemployment is just so terrible. I'll have some more champagne, yes. So dinner parties, it's like dinner parties. Alice, thank you. Dinner parties are what drive most. You have to understand something. Peer pressure, the people who succumb to the most peer pressure generally in today's world, maybe the atheists in Christopher Hitchens' day and age were independent thinkers or critical thinkers. Generally, atheists today are dogmatic ideologues. I don't say all of them. I don't say all. I shouldn't say that all. I don't mean that. That's not fair of me to say, so I don't mean that. A great many atheists who align themselves with the Democratic Party have replaced God and religion for CNN and the DNC. Their religion, so Jean-Louis Blackburn, their religion is fat. I've lost weight. Their religion is hold on, I'm reading these messages. So, their religion is politics. If your religion, thank you. If your religion is politics, the laughing, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. The Laughing Channel. Thank you. Exactly, Giacomo. I respect atheists and agnostic, but I respect people who are critical thinkers. If you've come to the conclusion because you're a critical thinker, great. The Laughing Channel. But don't replace, if you are a religious person, don't condemn or judge others who don't agree with you. And if you are an atheist, don't condemn and judge others who don't agree with you politically. See, the condemnation Giacomo, thank you. The Laughing Channel. The Laughing Channel, thank you. The condemnation and judgment. The condemnation and judgment is what I don't like. The condemnation and judgment, when you look at, like, the world before 2016 was a world where you could watch a music award show or the Academy Awards or a sporting event. And people say, well, politics has always been part of sporting events. No, not always. Not always. There are times when, like Jim Brown was a civil rights activist, and Jim Brown has stated categorically that Trump is not a, prejudiced person. And Jim Brown is one of the great American legends of all time. And in the history of this country. But there will only be one, like, they say, well, there's only one Bill Russell. There's only one Jim Brown. There's only one. You can try to say, well, we're doing this, or I'm doing this like John Carlos and Tommy Smith, but there's only one John Carlos. There's only one Tommy Smith. There's only one Jim Brown. There's only one Bill Russell. There's only one Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There's only one. Now, people might disagree with me and say, well, you know what? Sports and politics, they've mixed before, they can mix again. All right, but that moment in time is never going to be recreated, and those athletes that experience what they did, Doug Williams, there's only one Doug Williams. What Doug Williams did in the Super Bowl, nobody can repeat. Nobody. I don't think that the country, I think that there should be in the history book, in every textbook, what Jackie Robinson did and Larry Doby, but also Larry Doby was the first black player in the American League. But also what Doug Williams was able to do. First black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. At that point, there were people in the United States of America who thought that wasn't possible. We were. There were people who were definitely, warped in their mentalities. Sparky! AB Nixon, Canada. Yeah. But see, that's the thing. Sparky. Pence did not want. Look, when the Republican Party investigated Trump, because they did that with Richard Burr and Paul Ryan, when they investigated Trump, Sparky, it was game over for Republicans. When they say, well, Trump lost the Senate. No, you investigated a Republican president for 4 years. Richard Burr in the Senate did that. You don't think that had an impact? Of course that did. Most of the stories the past 4 years were complete and utter nonsense pertaining to Trump, but they have to say something because they couldn't just focus on the good things he did. But I love Doug Williams. One of the great quarterbacks of all time. And honestly, he is a civil rights icon. I don't think people really understand this, or a lot of people maybe don't. I think most people do, but, But you look at President Trump and his support of Israel. I like that very much. The left does not. Democrats do not. You look at Trump doing things that even Bernie Sanders voted for, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital. Okay, Bernie Sanders even wanted to do that, and then he said, of course, then he did an about face as usual. But you look, there are things when people say, well, Trump did things that other people wouldn't do. Yeah, that's why he's so appealing. Don't you get it? Don't you understand? Like, I don't dislike the Clintons. This is something that people don't get. I don't dislike Hillary or Bill. Oh, thank you. Finally, something nice out of your mouth. I shouldn't have expressed myself in that manner. All you've done is treat us unfairly. With your intense focus on servers with top secret intel, big deal. There are people starving, and you're focusing on top secret intel. I mean, give me a break. I'm saying, Bill, I don't dislike the Clintons. I just point out when they get away with major crimes. What's the problem? I don't dislike the Clintons. But they dislike Trump like you cannot believe. It is some kind of unhealthy obsession. It's an unhealthy obsession. I mean, it was good when you wanted my wife to become a Democratic nominee. So we forgive you. It's an obsession to dislike Trump. It is an absolute obsession. And it's like, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's actually like, you look at MSNBC now, they're ramping up the rhetoric. This is an alternate universe, like it really is. I have to watch the words that I say, but they're accusing Trump and Trump supporters. They truly think that they want to replace an established state called the United States of America. And they truly believe this in their minds. Meanwhile, like in Seattle and Portland and like literally organizations that are like, oh, we do not believe in an established state. They're like, it's nothing. It's fine. But Trump, he is. There's a person. He's worse than the organizations we can't talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, we will, Sherilyn, hello. I think that they have nothing, like, this is a moment in time you can look at in two ways. One, they're galvanizing or making their base into a more extreme, turning their base into a more extreme vantage point. Or they're saying these nonsensical things that are even more apoplectic and hysterical than usual because they know 2022 is around the corner. And they know Devin Nunes and Trump Republicans are going to take over the House. And they know our beloved President Biden's son is going to be investigated. And they know that our beloved President Biden is going to be impeached. There will be impeachment proceedings. And you will have a reason to impeach because the president, in this case, actually did lie. See, Trump was telling the truth most of the time. He didn't work with Russia. David, hello. He didn't work with Russia. See, they say Trump lies so much. He told the truth when he didn't work with Russia. And then you'll get people who you'll get like the occasional person who is like Like, you'll get the occasional person like, oh, well, it doesn't matter that he wasn't indicted on that. We know he did something. Well, no, I mean, Madam Secretary wasn't indicted because Comey couldn't find intent. That's pretty obvious. You intentionally used servers for 4 years with top secret intel. And so you have people saying, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm running out of steam. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much. Eric and Luke, thank you to my super chat. Thank you. I will be here. Indy, hello. I will be here at about, I would say, 10 p.m. tonight. Yeah, about 10 p.m. tonight. So be here at 10 p.m., everybody. I'll be here at 10 p.m. this evening. God bless. To my super chat, thank you. Eric and Luke, thank you. I will see you at about 10 p.m.